nobody outside of the biggest Tyson Fury fanboys will be surprised to hear that Otto Wallin, who has fought Tyson Fury, fought Anthony Joshua in the amateurs and sparred him in the pros, nobody other than the biggest Tyson Fury fanboys will be surprised to hear that Otto Wallin says Anthony Joshua is a bigger puncher than Tyson Fury. No surprises to any of us that have any objectivity. Okay? Now, I know Dave Allen in the past has said that Tyson Fury hits harder than Anthony Joshua when he sits down on his shots and all this kind of business. Anthony Joshua often doesn't really sit down on his shots and load up to the maximum amount. Right? He likes to get his shots off nice, fast, and snappy. If he wants to load up and really hit you as hard as he can possibly hit you, I'm sure that he would have hit Dave Allen even harder than Fury. You understand? Tyson Fury is a very big man. So if he hits you with the kind of shot that he hit Steve Cunningham with, where he really loads up on a big right hook and crashes it into your face, yeah, it's going to hurt. It's going to be a lot harder than most of the right hands that Tyson Fury throws in his fights. But Fury doesn't have as much practical power. This is what I'm going to call it. Practical power as Anthony Joshua. Meaning, for Fury to generate the kind of power that Joshua has, he needs to load up a lot more and put himself in a vulnerable position defensively. Whereas AJ can generate power from straight shots, faster shots, the Tyson Fury shots that are not going to put him in such a vulnerable position. So AJ's got more practical power than Fury in terms of who can hit the hardest. If you both put him in front of a punching machine and said, here you go, load up as much as you want and hit it as hard as you can, maybe Fury could hit as hard as AJ in that situation. But you're not going to be in that position in a boxing ring. Okay, in a boxing ring, you're going to need to get shots off quickly. You're going to need to react to situations on the fly. And in those scenarios, in general boxing scenarios, AJ's the bigger puncher. Yeah, for all intents and purposes, he is the bigger puncher. And this is something Otto Wallin confirms, having sparred loads of rounds with Anthony Joshua. And bear in mind, he's sparring AJ with headgear on and big, 18, 20-ounce gloves. Whereas when he fought Tyson Fury, there's no headgear and there's little 10-ounce gloves. And even still, he said that AJ hits harder than Fury. So AJ's definitely the puncher in the fight. There's just no question about it. Another Fury fanboys want to believe that the Gypsy King can walk on water and that he's just the best at everything. It's very similar to the Mayweather fanboys back in the days. The Mayweather fanboys would have you believe that Mayweather was the best at literally everything. That he was the hardest puncher around, the fastest puncher, the best stamina, the best chin. Like, he was just the best at everything. If you suggested that Mayweather didn't have the quickest hands in the division, oh, you're just a hater. You're this, you're that. This is what these people were carrying on with. It was like hero worship to a ridiculous extent. And that's why I did the infamous in the YouTube boxing community, spoof videos called Floyd is Jesus Part 1 and Part 2 on my old channel, the Hatman TV channel. Floyd is Jesus, because that was a spoof, and that was me doing the accent, American accent. That was a spoof of me pretending to be the typical Floyd Mayweather. That was a spoof of a typical Floyd Mayweather fan, right? Me pretending to be one. And coming out with the type of ridiculous claims that these people used to come out with. And it's kind of similar with Tyson Fury. They just believe he can do anything, and he's the best in every department. It's like Ben Davison. And Ben Davison is a smart guy in a boxing sense. He knows boxing. He's still young, obviously, but he analyzes boxing quite well and all that kind of thing. But he's so enamored, he's so in love with Tyson Fury, no disrespect, but he's so in love with him that he comes out with statements like Tyson Fury is better in every department than Anthony Joshua. That's a ridiculous thing to say. It just is, because it's not true. It's blatantly not true. Tyson Fury doesn't have the same punch variety that Anthony Joshua has. You're trying to tell me that Tyson Fury's uppercuts are as good as AJ's. You're trying to tell me that his, short range and mid range hooks are as good as AJ's and his combination punching ability. No, it's not. You're trying to tell me his counter punching is as good as AJ's. No, it's not. Yes, Tyson Fury has certain advantages over Anthony Joshua. Definitely. I would say he's got a better chin. He recovers better. I would say, he's got longer arms. He uses it very well. He's better on the back foot. He's better defensively when he wants to be defensive than AJ. He's more fluid than Anthony Joshua. I think he's got more natural confidence. Not that AJ isn't a naturally confident guy. He is. But at the elite level, there's levels, even at the elite level, right, when it comes to confidence. So, yeah, there are several things that Tyson Fury has over Anthony Joshua. But he doesn't have everything over him. That's just fanboy talk. Seriously, that's fanboy talk. And Otto Wallin confirms that Anthony Joshua, at the very least, is the harder puncher of the two. Now, one thing Otto Wallin also says, where are we at here? Yeah, he says, I think it's a good fight. I think everybody wants to see it. So think it's great for boxing and the division. I think Joshua and Fury are the two best heavyweights in the world right now. That's going to be a good fight. I've been watching footage of Joshua with Brazil, and to me, he looked really good in that fight. But I feel somewhere along the way, maybe Joshua lost a little confidence in himself for some reason. Maybe it was the loss to Ruiz. I don't know. I think that Fury being bigger, awkward, and smart, and very confident, it will make him the winner. I think that Fury's the favorite, but Joshua is going to be dangerous. He's a good puncher, and I feel like Joshua has all the tools to beat him, but he just has to believe in himself a little bit more. I concur with that. And this is why the Joshua fanboys were coming at my neck for my post-fight video for the Pulev bout, because I was talking about how I noticed AJ looking a little unsure of himself at times in there. And they were saying, why are you being critical? Oh my God. You see, if Anthony Joshua was a heavyweight prospect or a contender, and that Pulev fight was a learning fight, then I wouldn't have focused so much on him looking not intimidated, but him looking unsure of himself at times. I wouldn't have focused so much on it. The reason I focused more on it is because he's supposed to be fighting Tyson Fury next. You understand? So it's not like he's going to go from Pulev to another kind of learning type fight. No, he's going to go from Pulev into a fight against Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King, the master of mind games. Therefore, focusing on Anthony Joshua's confidence levels is very significant, and it's the obvious and logical thing to do, given the fact he's talking about fighting the Gypsy King next. So I think Otto Wallin is right when he says AJ needs to believe in himself more. He needs the old... I've been talking about this for a while. He needs that old AJ swagger back. When he used to come out to Shut Up by Stormzy and all that kind of stuff. That old AJ swagger. He needs that back in order to give himself the best chance of beating Tyson Fury. Yeah, he needs that old swagger back. And perhaps he can bring it back. Perhaps this is the fight to bring it back out of him, because I know he's always fancied it against Tyson Fury. He's always felt he had the beating of him. He's always felt like Fury's good, but maybe not dangerous, if that makes sense. That's something that Eddie Hearn keeps talking about. Now, whether that's actually true remains to be seen. Maybe Fury goes in there and does chin AJ in a couple rounds, right? And then we'll all be saying, wow, okay. But I'm talking about AJ's perception. I think in AJ's mind, he sees Fury as good and awkward, but not necessarily dangerous. Not someone who he really fears being knocked out by. And that might lead AJ to be a lot more confident and self-assured in this fight than, let's say, he was against Andy Ruiz, maybe even Kubrat Pulev. So we'll see. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Are you surprised to hear Otto Wallin saying that Anthony Joshua hits harder than Tyson Fury? You shouldn't be. If you are, again, you're likely a monumental Tyson Fury fanboy. It's like an Anthony Joshua fanboy claiming that AJ is just as slick and good on the back foot as Tyson Fury. If for you to say something like that, you'd have to be a monumental Anthony Joshua fanboy. Because he's just not as slick or good on the back foot as Tyson Fury. That's ridiculous. You see? Anyway,